From Robert McCartney, we're hearing Post has laid off all its photojournalists, apparently. All of its photojournalists. I did notice that top comment there real quick. No loss. The Washington Post, Democracy Dies in Darkness. Let's see. Now, who will take all those deceptive photos of crying children to score political points? Yeah, and same with like the kids in cages from the Obama era and then pretending that it was actually Trump who was doing all of that. Anyway, from Sam Fortier, and now we're going to get into the individuals who were fired from the Washington Post. I am part of the mass layoffs at the Washington Post. I am sad and angry. We all want to keep doing the work, but for now, I want to document a reality of being in journalism today. Let's have a look.
First, we will be closing the sports department in its current form. We plan to
your role is eliminated by today's workforce reductions. Wayne Connell, following up on today's communication, I'm writing to share the difficult news that your position is eliminated as part of today's organizational changes. Please know that this decision was not made lightly and came after careful consideration of many factors, including the evolving needs of our business. We appreciate your contributions to the company.
Several reporters to join features and cover sports as a cultural and societal phenomenon, as well as several folks to staff the print sports section. This is obviously a uniquely and incredibly difficult decision. Our sports coverage is often superb. Our sports writers are among the most talented in our business. Sports has a very proud legacy at the Post.
And it's probably oversaturated.
Unfortunately, we are grappling and have been with just major changes in the way sports news is delivered, shared, and experienced across the industry.
Well, like somebody that I read earlier said that Washington Post should have stuck strictly to politics all along. Not that they report fairly in any measure when it pertains to politics. They prop up and celebrate everything having to do with the Democratic Party, and they demonize and smear and screech at everything the Republican Party does no matter what. I'm sure their Venezuela coverage of Maduro being captured was highly negative and accusing Trump of being a world dictator and engaging in a war against Venezuela, despite the vast majority of Venezuelans celebrating Maduro's capture. And from Based at Jessica, an ex-Washington Post employee is visibly in tears. For a long time, the paper and a lot of the media stopped feeling like it was focused on reporting and started feeling more like a space for activism. Stories often came across more like opinion than news. Yeah, that ain't no shit. Now, they're out of a job because no one's buying this stuff. And look, I'm not celebrating individuals getting laid off at all. It's one of the worst things to experience, getting laid off, especially a sudden layoff. If you're just suddenly just thrown into unemployment, like just on a dime. So definitely not laughing and celebrating them individually. It sucks. It really sucks. However, this has been a long time coming. And if they were just objective in their reporting and they just stuck to the facts and they were fair, they give everybody a fair shake and they didn't heavily lean toward one side and then just constantly demonize the other side, then maybe they would still be employed.
Hi, all. I'm taping this while it's a little raw, but I was laid off from the Washington Post today along with around 300 of my other colleagues. And it's a pretty expansive elimination of this paper that I think is really wonderful. And I have colleagues who are in Ukraine who are going to have to come back, colleagues who are in Jerusalem. We had a foreign editor quit because so much of his staff was decimated. And for our section, basically arts coverage that doesn't involve Trump has been eliminated. So really no arts reporters, no critics. There's just a few left.
Well, that doesn't sound promising.
My whole section, which is features, was decimated. So I don't know, pour a beer out for us. I'm still in Park City where I was taking a couple days off after Sundance, working 10 days straight. You can ask my friends who never saw me. But yeah, onward and upwards. I would like to go somewhere that cares about arts coverage. I would like to travel more. I want to write books, and we'll just see. We'll just see what happens. Anyway, um, I'm thinking of all my colleagues. They're amazing. It was a really incredible place to work, and uh, we'll see you on the other side. All right.
Well, unfortunately, the arts and traveling, that's not exactly what the country needs right now, but I guess best of luck to her. Lizzie Johnson, I was just laid off by the Washington Post in the middle of a war zone. I have no words. I'm devastated. Waking up without power, heat, or running water. Now that look, this was actually posted before. This is back on January 25th before the layoff happened. She was just reposting this. Heater running water, but the work here in Kiev continues. Warming up the car, waiting in pencil. Pen ink freezes by headlamp. Despite how difficult this job could be, I'm proud to be a foreign correspondent at the Washington Post. And how many followers does she have? She got 29,800 followers, so not really a whole lot, really. Not nearly as much as I would have expected, especially by those numbers. But this received almost 250,000 likes and 14 million views, a lot of comments, and I guess we'll just read through a little bit of the comments here and there. Let's see. If your reporting is truly that groundbreaking, you could use X and Reddit, virtually free tools, to continue doing what you're doing and reach an even wider audience than what is filtered through your 4 editors and a paywall. Let the market decide. It's what we do as independent journalists, and I could not agree more. Like I said earlier, you would think with people that are out in the field like she is, this could be a blessing in disguise, because if she comes across anything that is dramatic that happens out on the battlefield or wherever it is that she's covering, whatever she's covering in Ukraine, she could essentially sell it to the highest bidder. She can make a hell of a lot more money than she's making by sticking to a strict salary. But she said she's working for the Washington Post, so I assume that she's a full-time employee with them. Maybe she was just a contractor. I don't know. I don't think that she would have been, because she obviously was one of the 300 that were laid off. So anyway, good luck. You will rebound. I'm not familiar with your reporting. Hopefully you are not like 99% of the mainstream media with terminal Trump derangement syndrome. I'm going to go out on a limb here and tell you to learn to code, leer to code, which is hilarious because that's a jab at the Somalis in Minnesota with the leering center. So with this being the X platform, I got to be hesitant to dig through too many of the comments because it can get quite spicy on X. So, and we're over here on YouTube, and YouTube, you got to try to keep things as clean and on the up and up as possible. So Rachel Van Doggen, Marissa was one of the journalists who won a Pulitzer Prize for her coverage of the January 6th Capitol riots. I was laid off today by the Washington Post. I'm proud of the work that I've done at this place. Not just the award-winning work, of course she's got to mention that, but the stories that spurred change, that were steeped in this beautiful local community. Job tips are welcome, DMs are welcome. And look, I don't want to dox their email addresses, but they're the ones putting them out. I'm assuming that this is probably her professional email, so please don't go emailing these people, anybody who watches this. I mean, I'm certainly not going to, and I would not recommend anybody do either. Jason Thompson, maybe you shouldn't have made demands in your profile. P.S. You need to update your bio. Oh, really? Here, let's take a look at her bio. What does her bio say? Marissa J. Lang, we demand a diverse, inclusive, and fair Washington Post. So, in other words, she wants DEI all over the place. Local enterprise of the Washington Post, Pulitzer winner, formerly housing and protests, a Post Guild organizer, New Yorker, Paro DC stan, Latina bilingual, DMs always open. Okay, so let's see what else is down here. Not familiar with that. That might be hilarious to some. I honestly don't get that one. No one will remember a thing you did here. How embarrassing that you wasted all that time. Ouch. The New York Post and California Post are hiring. Yeah, that they are, but they're not going to be hiring her. That's for damn sure. Take heart. There are many more propaganda media companies out there. Oh, sorry. They're all now losing money and not hiring because Americans are waking up from the BS you beat into their brains. Trans surgeries for 13-year-olds, men and girls sports and showers, etc., etc. Yeah, he's kind of got a point. Welcome to the real world, Cupcake. Your boss was tired of bleeding money. You got axed. DoorDash and Uber are options. Well, I mean, maybe they are in the short term, but like DoorDash, I don't think DoorDash has ever been profitable. Maybe they are finally, but I know for the longest time they weren't. But I'm sure DoorDash is overly saturated, and Not going to get into the whole nitty gritty with DoorDash, but I got a lot of things to say with regard to DoorDash. The right memes, learn to code. Let me be clear. I have a job tip, lear to code. That is so hilarious that everybody's saying that. Lear to code. Unemployed libertards are the best libertards. DEI, dead Washington Post. People don't want this crap. You could always learn to code. So I think we get the idea. We'll go and move on to the next one. So we got quite a few of these. All right, so which one was the one that I just did? This comes, okay, so I think we're on this one. Nothing makes a better case for mass layoffs at the Washington Post than the fact that they had a race and ethnicity reporter. Emmanuel Felton, I'm among the hundreds of people laid off by the Post. This comes 6 months after hearing in a national meeting that race coverage derives subscriptions. This wasn't a financial decision, it was an ideological one. So what does his bio look like? First and last race and ethnicity reporter at the Washington Post, writing the search for Black Mecca at Harper Books, teaching at Yale and Hunter College. So in other words, he's teaching your children, folks. And let's see, he owns 3 Somali daycares in Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota daycares are hiring. It was a financial one. No one is buying that dying paper to read your tripe. Learn to code. If you people at the Post would report the news in a non-biased, independent manner, the hundreds would still be working. Race baiters have no place in the world. Try Starbucks. It was financial. They had no readers because the American public doesn't trust them anymore. It was ideological to hire you in the first place. America is tired of the racists, as they are. I'm guessing this will only make you hate white people more than you already do. Luckily for you, there are plenty of places on this planet where you can spew your hate. Good riddance. It's okay, you can still call white people racist, you just won't get paid for it. LOL, you didn't have a real job. You mean this isn't a parody tweet? Well, thoughts and prayers. Special Olympics should be next for you. Oh yeah, and then the one underneath that was a McDonald's application. Hilarious. All right, moving on to the next one. I didn't skip this one, did I? Okay, no, I didn't. All right, I thought I skipped that last one. Nicole Asbury, I'm among the hundreds laid off today by the Post. It was a dream to write about education for Post Local. I don't have answers over what future coverage of Maryland schools will look like. If you have job tips, please send them my way. And look, for some of them, I went through their profiles and I looked down to see what exactly that they were posting on, because I'd be really curious to see some of these articles on these school systems that she's reporting on. But she only has 420 posts. And the reason is because most of these people have already migrated over to Blue Sky when Blue Sky first came out, because it's extremely left-wing, and they got all triggered and pissed off when Elon Musk bought X, especially when he pitched Doge to the Trump administration, and he did a lot of good work under the Trump administration, and they absolutely hate Elon Musk now, so that's why they've all moved away. But anyway, her bio says, laid off, education writer for Post Local, kid from Kansas. Reachable via, all right, not going to read all that. It's an email if you're not watching but listening. I don't want to read email addresses. All right, so anyway, from the Guild, which I'm a proud member of. Did I already read this? I don't think that I already read this. All right, well, here, I'll read it. Hopefully I'm not reading it again. But anyway, it says, these layoffs are not inevitable. A newsroom cannot be hollowed out without consequences for its credibility, its reach, and its future. In just the last 3 days, the Post workforce has shrunk by roughly 400 people. Continuing to eliminate workers only stands to weaken the newspaper, drive away readers, and undercut the Post's mission to hold power to account without fear or favor, and provide critical information for communities across the region, country, and world. The Post Guild vehemently opposes any more staff reductions. Now is the time to stand in solidarity with our laid-off colleagues and with those who remain, who will now be asked to do more with less. There is still time to save the Post. On top of the thousands of letters readers have already sent to the company's leadership, all of them staunchly disapproving of these cuts, we expect many people at our hashtag Save the Post rally on Thursday at noon. Dude, they're going to end up getting everybody fired. That's what they're going to end up doing. If Jeff Bezos is no longer willing to invest in the mission that has defined this paper for generations and serve the millions who depend on Post journalism, then the Post deserves a steward that will. Well, too bad, so sad. He owns it, and he can do whatever the hell he wants to do with it. And look, he could actually completely clean house, because I'm sure there's no shortage of journalists out there who are desperately looking for a job. So I think that they're walking on very thin ice with that. And she says, and for anyone hiring, I'm reachable. Of course she is. Maybe they will start teaching them useful info rather than the propaganda pushed by the Washington Post reporters, quote unquote reporters. And from Wall Street Mav, the employees of the Washington Post brought this on themselves. They catered to the narrow radical left audience and made their business model economically obsolete. Nobody should be surprised. The radical leftist employee culture did this. Should not have pledged allegiance to Almighty Bezos. Nicole, I am so sorry. Us Marylanders, even without kids, are so much worse off without your coverage. So that is one supporting her. This is the modern era. You and your colleagues can easily start a new online competing newspaper. Go for it. You don't have the overhead of having to produce extreme profits to satisfy the ruling class. Look, I read a comment earlier before I started the video where someone said, look, you've got people that were fired that came from pretty much every division, every department, section, what have you, of the Washington Post. So you could all just collectivize and start your own company if you wanted to. Of course, you're going to have a lot of investments or investing money in order to do that. But I mean, it's not out of the realm of impossibility. I'm just not sure anybody's going to read it. I'm writing to so many of you at the Post today. I am just so sorry. Devastating, both of you and the communities you so selflessly covered. I am so sorry, dear friend. Lear to code. Your impact runs deep, and I'm so sorry to hear this. You and your work will be greatly missed. Can you code? Only hundreds? No, I'm so sorry. Loved your reporting, and it was great seeing you at the PGCPS board meetings. And the next one, we always need reporters covering local Montgomery County news, which she's not going to like that because they're probably not going to be paying her $130,000 there. So sorry. Okay, so, a lot of people showing support for her in this post. Oh yeah, how often did you write about what a shitty job the teachers unions were doing educating children about failing test scores, political activism, sexual grooming, education these days? I think he raises a very fair point. Did she report on any of that? I somehow doubt it. Probably not. And Patrick Svitek, I was laid off today from the Washington Post campaigns team covering the midterms and 2028. I hear this is an important election year, and I want to cover it aggressively. If you'd like to work together, my DMs are open, and you can email me. And Ivy Gold Girl, if you're as good as you say you are, then start your own independent media and see how it works out for you. But if you're in an echo chamber like Washington Post, what would set you apart anyway? Try opening a daycare in Minneapolis. I hear it's a cash cow. There's no real need for another TDS independent journalist. Your type are a dime a dozen. Learn to write computer software. See, it's hilarious if you haven't been in the whole political game, especially on the X platform, formerly Twitter, back when it was Twitter. Back in the day, it was in like the late 2010s. There was a lot of journalists that were getting purged. There were mass firings back in the day, and a lot of people who were, I guess you could consider it trolling them. A lot of people were replying in their comments just like these, and they were putting hashtag learn to code. They were just saying learn to code. In other words, they were saying, look, you don't have to be stuck in a journalism career for the rest of your life because most of these journalism positions are completely pointless. So why don't you try to look for a real job and learn to code, as in learn how to be a computer programmer, learn to code software and get yourself a technology job. Because they were a lot more in demand back then than they are now, of course, especially with the advent of AI. But this is just, it's a running joke. If you're not familiar with hashtag learn to code, it was popular some years back. So, and back then, when cancel culture was in full swing, people who were tweeting learn to code at journalists were getting banned permanently from X and probably from other social media outlets or social media platforms. So it's kind of liberating. It's nice to see that people are saying learn to code from where I sit, because I saw a lot of people that got permanently banned from Twitter because they tweeted at a journalist who was recently fired and they said learn to code, or they dropped the hashtag learn to code, and their profile was almost immediately nuked permanently, which a lot of them got their accounts back after Elon bought up Twitter. Anyway, nobody gives a shit. Hey, Patty boy. All right, whatever. Join the team. Team McDonald's with Pepe. Cover it aggressively. What does that mean? You sound like an activist, not a reporter. Shaking my head. Sorry to hear that, folks. Patrick is one of the best reporters I've ever worked with. He's professional, hardworking, fair, and precise in his reporting. Any media outlet that scoops him up will be lucky. Nobody is going to miss your future biased coverage of the midterms other than Democrats you would be a proxy for. Probably should update that bio, big dog. Well, you're still free to cover the midterms in 2028, Pat. The Washington Post just won't pay you for it. Okay. So I don't think that I checked out his profile. So let's have a quick look. Political reporter, ex-Washington Post. So it looks like he updated it. Texas Tribune, Houston Chronicle, DC, via San Antonio and Austin. Yeah, it looks like he had updated it. And Jennifer Hassan, my job is no more. Heartbreak. This spring would have been marked 10 years at the Washington Post. All I can think about is the stories that won't get told now, the voices that won't be heard, the questions that won't be asked. My colleagues deserve better. So do our readers. And she goes on to say, I'll forever be grateful to have worked with some of the most talented reporters and editors in the world, and always be proud that an East End girl from London made it to the front page in the newsroom of the Washington Post. Imagine if during the last 10 years you actually reported the facts based upon research and not just knowing the outcome you wanted to push and only used hearsay. Get another job and quit whining. Nobody cares. I can assure you that. Karma, you lied for a decade and knew the solution to bankruptcy was to be even-handed, but you just couldn't help yourself. There's 1,000 just like you. Washington Post dies in darkness, as it should. Usage of the plural form of reader will soon be unnecessary by Washington Post, quote-unquote, reporters. We don't deserve to read that rag. You didn't have any readers, that's the problem. Maybe if you didn't spread propaganda and just reported news, you guys would still be employed. Your tears are like cotton candy. Oh, yikes. This is so enjoyable, it's not even funny. Ooh, spicy. As the great philosopher Joseph Biden once said to the folks who were losing their jobs, learn to code. Or true or not, a shove at a pressure. Anyway, chief engineer, well, the job market has changed in 10 years, and you guys cheered on the outsourcing, offshoring, and automation of jobs. Yeah, they actually did. I mean, maybe not just Washington Post, but the mainstream media in general were certainly doing that. They were championing globalism. And that's an element of globalism, outsourcing all of our jobs to everybody else. It's kind of like the people that support communism are the ones that are always put against the wall first. De Niro knew to get out, but had no problem setting it up. Awkward, yet deserved. You are going to have to get used to nobody giving a fuck. Your stories of how you sold us out will not be greeted by later generations. Oh, hell no, they won't, man. I think later generations are going to look back. You know, like how they've kept archives of newspapers going back hundreds of years. They're going to look back in the early 21st century with disgust with outlets like the Washington Post. And that's for damn sure, unless it all just mysteriously disappears. Alas, whatever shall we do with the curated lies, the carefully crafted templates of commie propaganda? Our voices once pervasive, however hollow, filling the ether with false hopes. More importantly, with baseless fears and irrational rage. We could have been somebody, we could have been contenders, but now we're bums. And nonsense, thousands of podcasters and citizen journalists are doing the job your politics would not allow you to do at the Post. Nick Shirley has 142 million views on his fraud video. That is more paid subscribers than the Post gets in 208 weeks at 97,000 per day. Wow. That is 4 years of the Post's viewers and subscribers from one video. From one 23-year-old DIY investigative journalist. I'm going to give that one a like because that was a banger. It was a banger of a post. That's a good one to finish that one off on. And Dan Egan. When I started in the late 90s, we had not one, but 2 bureaus in Prince William County. If you don't get it, you don't get it. Anyway, now I'm laid off after 29 years. Please don't cancel your subscriptions. There are many talented journalists still there. And that's in response to Alec McGillis. There were a dozen staffers in the Fairfax Bureau when I started there in 2006, suitable for a county of 1 million. That was one of a half a dozen suburban bureaus, plus the city desk to cover DC itself. Now there will be a dozen people in all of Metro for a region of 6 million. Yeah, well, you know, and look, there's an argument to be made there that the people who are left, they're probably going to have to work twice as hard. And that's just the nature of downsizing, man. That doesn't just happen in news media. It happens across all of corporate America. And that's the trade-off. Do you want to get fired, in which case you're going to have no paychecks coming in, or you can stay on and keep getting a paycheck, but you're going to have to do a significant amount of more work, at least in the short term, till they restructure everything. What if democracy dies in indifference? Deep cuts at behest of Bezos. Executive editor Matt Murray announces sport desk killed. Metro desk down to about a dozen, previously 40 plus. Hope to keep presence in 12 foreign bureaus. Currently 70 plus staffers. Anyway, so let me get back to where we were. Okay, so all right, so here's some of the comments. Learn to build oil pipelines. Yeah, you know that they're not going to want to do that, not only because it's hard work, but it's bad for the environment. Dan, I'm so upset about this. You were a fantastic editor for me when I was there, and you nor anyone else don't deserve this. You forgot the letter A, Mr. Journalist. Nick Hernandez, those talented journalists should not be dismayed by the response of subscribers canceling subscriptions. They should be moving to publications that support their journalism. Canceling is the only option at this point. How else to make the point? As an alum, I saw firsthand the talent that emerged from suburban bureaus that reporting surface political trends long before they showed up in the polls. Retreating undercuts management's goal of owning politics and strips away what once made the Washington Post different from others. I always read your work, Dan, and I was always proud that a kid from La Crescent, Minnesota was writing for the Post. Good luck in what's next. Dan, I'm so sorry. You're an incredible editor, and I admire so much your principled views and ability to cut through the bullshit and get to the point, even just in meetings we both happen to be in. Let's see. Dan, I'm stunned. I loved working with you. You were the smartest political editor and a terrific reporter, so gutsy and talented and decent. I'm stunned to see this. Sorry to see you go. So a lot of people in support of him, of course. Don't cancel. We need your support. And of course, you know, now we start to fall into the weeds. Learn to code. Nobody wants to get it. That's why you failed. Never forget our last Slack interaction was about the Westminster Dog Show. I have no idea what that's about. Okay. So let's roll on to the next. Naveen Kumar. I've been laid off from Washington Post, where serving as theater critic was truly a dream job. So he was a theater critic working full time at the Washington Post in D.C. Well, theater coverage in D.C. Okay. I'm available for opportunities and truly hope there's a future for arts and theater coverage in D.C. and beyond. Well, I wouldn't exactly hold your breath, dude, because the country, like, we need blue collar. We've got a lot of manufacturing positions that are going to be opening soon, thanks to the tariffs and the, 18 or are we up to $19 trillion worth of money that's been invested into the United States. So needless to say, in the next few years, it's not even going to be a question of learn to code. It's going to be a question of learn to work the assembly line. Captain Queenan, oh yeah, boohoo. Loved reading your work. Arts and entertainment coverage is vital and often maligned as fluff. Arts and culture sections used to be my favorites. Grew up as a literary nerd. Why do I get the impression all these Washington Post dream jobs were called this because of a 12-hour work week? Yeah, that was a question that was raised. I think sometime around the COVID era that a lot of these journalists were only working like literally 1 day a week, and that's why a lot of them were pulled back into the office and were not allowed to work remote anymore. We'd love to support you. Breaking news: no one gives a fuck. This is awful news. The amount of extraordinary writers, critics, journalists laid off is absurd. Harold and Kumar get fired. Oh, wow. Snap. Thank you for not whining and for being professional. I'm sure things will work out for you. Making sure you put this on your resume. Yeah, see, like these people who are announcing that they've been laid off, you could tell that they're holding a lot of emotion back. They're holding back a lot of anger because they just want to cut loose and blow up, which they're probably doing over on Blue Sky. They're probably in full-on freak-out mode over there, but they understand over on the X platform, that is the one big game in town. That is the world's water cooler, the town square where everybody goes and gathers. Like I said, it's something like 600 million unique visitors each month. So they got to keep it clean and professional because they're going to probably want another job pretty soon. So anyway, sorry to hear this. Terrible news. Love reading your work. Really enjoyed your criticism. Good luck. So a lot of support for this one also. Substack awaits. And Brianna Tucker, I'm affected by layoffs at the Washington Post today. There aren't enough words to describe the immense privilege and profound responsibility I felt since hired at 25 as an editor. As a Black woman covering politics, a dwindling cohort, today that feeling is magnified. And we'll have a look at a few of these. This is the primary reason I'm glad that you and others like you are gone. It is the, quote, as a Black woman, in quote, perspective you decided to insert in every single article. We are weary of your politics and dishonesty. 240 likes. Brianna, you are an amazing journalist. And sad news, but there are loads of non-racist newspapers who will be eager to publish your political perspectives. Hang in there probably. Sorry for your loss. Let's see. What does your skin color have to do with anything? You've got this. Your ability to write and express your opinions clearly and effectively without restraint. Thank you for your time and energy. Proud of you, Brianna. I'm sorry. So sorry. Anyway, so it trails into more support. Actually, quite a lot of support. There's a lot of outpouring of support, which, I mean, look, that's, like I said, man, they lost their job. It's not, it sucks for anybody to lose their job, no matter, how far of a, hair on fire progressive leftist that you might be. So, at least they're, the positivity that they're receiving is probably reassuring, which, it's not a bad thing. Derek Hawkins, laid off from the Washington Post after 10 years, along with many others. A job is a job. This happened to be a really cool one. I pursued many interests, held power to account, and worked with the best colleagues. I'm not stopping here. And let's see where this goes. Serious time to create an OnlyFans. Yeah, man, jump on OnlyFans. Maybe you can make something out of that. I mean, how much are they earning on average over on OnlyFans? It's like, what, $50 a month, I think. I think that's the average going rate of an OnlyFans profile. I'm sure that the guys are probably not making quite that much. Anyway, champion, spieler, leer to weld. You never held Biden to account. If you had, you'd likely still be working. Why are people being laid off? Maybe try being a journalist, not an activist. Just saying. Held power to account is the white way to say speak truth to power. Probably should update that bio for accuracy, bro chacho. We'll check out his profile in a second. This one is not whining. Good to see. You'll find something soon. The sky's the limit. Hey, Indie Journal here. Would love to connect and build a community. Publicly announcing job loss to seek sympathy from the internet strangers is pathetic. So sorry, Derek. Glad you got laid off. Ouch. You deserved it. Ouch. Learn to code, bro. I don't enjoying hearing any of my fellow Americans losing their jobs, but the national discourse will not suffer from your absence. I hope you find gainful employment. That was a pretty fair comment. Love it. We need more good news like this. Ooh. Derek, you are one of one, tenacious, dogged, and such a collaborator. I could tell from your attitude that you'll do fine. Well done. You left out, but reported on only what they told me to report on, which, yeah, there's probably a ring of truth to that also. Stay in contact with all the laid off staff and launch your own online politically center newspaper. Like, dude, if he was truly a centrist, then yeah, he might not have a problem finding employment in the future. I have a tip for you to get back on your feet. Keep an open mind. Be willing to listen. Dig in. Keep your eyes wide open. Don't bury your head in the sand every time you hear something that's conservative leaning. That would be another recommendation. Derek, you are a great colleague. This week is the worst. We'll miss talking DC punk with you. We are here if you need anything. Truth with an F. Truth to power. LOL, you held power to account, huh? LMAO. Okay. Remember when the Washington Post said Hunter's laptop was fake? Good times. Yup. Definitely remember when that was going around. Everybody was saying the Hunter's laptop was fake. It wasn't. And where? Okay, that was the... Oh, yeah, that's right. I meant to look at his profile. We'll have a look. Federal law enforcement reporter at the Washington Post. Sunil Deha. Of course, he's on Blue Sky. What else is new? Matter of fact, would they let me over on there without signing in? I don't know if Blue Sky is, login only like Instagram. But no, it doesn't appear so. Let's take a look. 10 months. New Trump has revoked Secret Service protection from former Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas a week after announcing he was terminating Hunter and Ashley Biden's details. Biden had ordered a 6-month extension on Mayorkas' detail, which would have run through mid-July. The service was alerted that his detail is being shut down. Okay, so maybe he's just doing strict reporting on things. Okay, all right, whatever. I don't want to get too far into the weeds with his freaking Blue Sky profile. I got to stick to the matter at hand. All right, let's go to the next one. Kyle Swenson. My time at the Washington Post has come to an end. I was among today's layoffs. I had the honor to work at the paper for 8 years, telling stories across the country, covering breaking news, then narrative stories, then poverty, then a little bit of everything in the DMV. I'm here if you need anything, Kyle. I remain in awe of your narrative work, and it felt that way for years. And really sorry to hear this. So sad and sorry. So sorry and devastated. I'm sorry. And he's actually responding to everybody. I enjoyed this story and will be sad when there are fewer of them. Your work covering the homeless encampment sweeps was important. Inside one man's mission to find DC's long-lost panda statues. I mean, look, maybe that's mildly entertaining, especially if you're from DC and you understand that there's a bunch of panda statues that existed at some time. I mean, I could see that being entertaining. Definitely better than just constant bashing the right and Republicans, conservatives, and whatnot. Sucks to suck. Please remove Washington Post from your bio. It's misleading. So sorry to hear this, Kyle. I'm so sorry. It was such an honor. Really sorry. Devastating. And anyway, more of the same. A lot of support covering inequality. Now you're going to live it. There ain't many Democrat propaganda outlets hiring right now. Mostly liberals get their news from Billie Eilish and TMZ. You're just too wordy for them. Best of luck, and don't forget, you can always learn to code. Your loss is a win for the truth. All right. Bahaha, covering inequality. Another woke liberal Washington Post out of a job and searching for another liberal outlet. Good luck making $30,000 on Patreon. Should you have been telling stories for all of these years, Kyle, or should you have simply reported the news? Honestly, objectively, and fairly. Your work had absolutely no value. Are you beginning to get it now? Lear to code. Sorry to hear. Lear to daycare. Time for it to return to mommy. I think that's a Trump quote. Go home to mommy. Maybe your poo articles can help you while you're homeless. Hope you feel the warmth of collectivism soon. Look, I wouldn't wish homeless on anybody, no matter how far left they are. Librag, former staff writer removed from your bio. It's called Stolen Valor. Sorry, go back to earning a living at a real job. Ooh, ouch. And let's go on to the next. Actually, did I look at that dude's bio? Yeah, staff writer, Washington Post, covering inequality. Author, Good Kids, Bad City, available now. Okay. Sabrina Malhi, my heart is broken. I'm sitting here nursing my newborn baby, and losing my dream job at the Washington Post is devastating. Well, hopefully she's married. She just had a baby after all. I mean, one would conclude that she probably is. Although we do live in 2026, there's not a whole lot of people getting married, especially guys. I mean, there's not a lot of guys out there that are willing to get married, and for very good reason. But anyway, yeah, definitely not a good time to get laid off if you have a newborn. However, wouldn't this be a blessing in disguise, though? Now you can take care of your child and raise your child. Again, assuming she's married. All right. So national health reporter, and I don't want to dox her information. I guess it's too late for that. But all right. Let's go into a few of these. Mila Joy. Wow. Mila Joy. She's got a substantial following, almost 500,000 followers. I come across her content pretty often on X. Sorry, not sorry. Learn to code. Go woke. Go broke. Boohoo. Remember when we got fired during COVID for refusing the shot? Didn't think so. I remember that. I definitely remember that. Thank God I didn't get the COVID vaccine. I mean, what was the number? It was like, 91? I think 91, maybe 92% of people in America ended up getting the COVID vaccine. And I didn't want to have anything to do with it. Not to get into the weeds with that, but I mean, I knew early on, just like anybody else with any common sense knew, that the vaccine wasn't going to prevent you from getting COVID outright. And they, not soon after the COVID vaccine was rolled out, they admitted it. Fauci did. It's like, well, it'll keep you out of the hospital. If you don't get the COVID vaccine, you're probably going to end up going into the hospital. And if you do get the vaccine, well, yeah, you're still going to get COVID, but the symptoms won't be that bad. That's called a therapeutic. It's not called a freaking vaccine. Anyway, your profile says that you were the National Health Reporter. What is stopping you from using virtually free tools like X and Reddit to continue reporting on those topics? Mine actually, yeah, I think that's actually the same person that commented on that other one talking about that. Just Courtney, if only just one of you chose to report the truth, you might not be whining on the internet about losing your dream job. Hopefully you can learn to code. Should have chose the truth. Not telling the truth and not thinking for yourself has consequences. Being a propaganda wing for the left has consequences. Well, especially if she had been there throughout the COVID era, I can only imagine what she was reporting on, because propaganda was just flying all over the place back then, and it was just absolutely just infuriating, to be honest. All right, that baby is going to be so ashamed of you in a few years. Oh, man, that's a little over the top. All right. Walpo is nothing but slander and lies. Glad to see that karma finally paid a visit. Come on, guys. I mean, look, they can throw jabs at them and throw jabs at their jobs, but don't go after her child. I mean, come on, man, that's a little harsh. I was laid off the day I returned from maternity leave in January of 2001. You are not special. Learn to code. Your dream job should be nursing your newborn baby. Yes, I think so too. That's exactly what your dream job should be. Raising your children at home. And again, I'm assuming she has a husband. He probably does fairly well. I mean, somebody who works at the Washington Post, I can imagine that she probably had quite a few different suitors to choose from. But what do I know? I don't know anything about her life. So many opportunities in oil drilling and coding. Learn to code. You're in the find out stage of FAFO. Enjoy the bed that you made for you and your family. Now you can freelance and not pay for daycare. That's a fair point. Yeah, man, daycare, I don't know what it is for newborns. Look, when my daughter was born, the daycare, because I put her in daycare for about 2 weeks. I couldn't stand it. Drove me nuts. I had an opportunity to work third shift and I took it. She was only in daycare for 2 weeks and it was $700 a month. That's how much it was when she was 3 months old. $700. And I believe that I've read somewhere for pre-K daycare on average, it's like $1,500 or $1,600 a month now. That's like the national average. Although newborns, if a baby's less than a year old, it can be, in some cases, substantially more expensive depending on where you go. So, yeah, like paying for daycare, especially in a place like Washington, D.C., it's probably like $35,000 a year just to put your newborn in daycare. It may not even be worth it. Drew Liberty application for McDonald's employment. This reminds me of when my wife lost her dream job because she refused to get the COVID vaccine, which journalists like you pushed even up to 5 months ago, was devastating, and you are a cause of it. You deserve all that comes to you. Good riddance. Oh, wow, man. COVID is rising. New vaccines may not be ready until mid-September. And who wants to chat with me on why they chose not to not COVID vax their 4 and under children? What? Yeah, dude, like, no. Hell no. Learn to code. And, all right, breaks my heart. Now the people who had their jobs shipped overseas felt. Amen. Washington Post writers are responsible for their own demise. I was a subscriber for years, and your propaganda and anti-Semitism was disgusting. I even reached out to the editor-in-chief. When you are complicit, no one cares how the demise affects you. Dude, over 1,000 likes. I used to be a subscriber, and well, I canceled it. Washington Post became, like most other media sources, just pure propaganda and feelings and opinions versus news. So although I have compassion for you in the sense it has to be rather scary to lose your job while having a family, at the same time, this is just the culmination of fully captured media that the public no longer wants. Amen. I'm not going to celebrate anyone losing their job. It sucks, but Washington Post has lost its credibility and subscribers got tired of the bias and lies. Good luck finding a new job. Yet you will not learn a single damn thing from it. Unfortunately, yeah, you probably won't. The simple truth is every time you make you made a free will choice to serve your cult instead of the American people, you took another step toward making yourself unemployable. Every time you decided to champion a cause instead of informing, you took another step toward making yourself unemployable. Every time you cheered on the cult instead of speaking up for balance and fairness, you took another step toward making yourself unemployable. Nobody held a gun to your head and made those choices for you. This is all on you. Meanwhile, almost half of America is celebrating it like it was an effing national holiday. You can learn from this and leverage it into creating the ability to read the country, let alone the room. Could, but you will not, will you? All right, let's head on to the next one. And Emma Uber. I was laid off today from the Washington Post. It was an honor of a lifetime to begin my career here. I am proud of the work I have done and endlessly grateful to the people who trusted me to tell their stories. And let's have a look at her profile first. Formerly Washington Post, been updated. Metro, raised on so-and-so. And let's see, you need to update your profile. I mean, come on, guys. It's all been updated. And of course, this was like on the day of, right? On February the 4th. Nimrod Paul Carter, reach out and give me a straw. Another one of the Pepe McDonald's workers. The Washington Post, democracy dies in darkness. With the Amazon smile. Work for Nick Sordor's team. Yeah, there you go. Nick Sordor, he's a conservative. The same post from all of you. Nobody cares. Lear to code. Good luck. Very sorry to hear this and so sad. Photographers and other employees love the paper more than its owner does. This is the third person I'm reading about with WAPO. Well, at least we have indie news organizations out there like News Nation. That's much better. May you continue on. I'm so sorry to hear this. And I'm so sorry. I'm just a reader, but I appreciate your work. Let's see. You're an absolute force, and I can't wait to see where you land next. Thank you for your excellent work. You're a force to be reckoned with. Let's see. So sorry. So sorry. A lot of outpouring. A lot of positive comments. Very sorry to hear that. I hear Nick Shirley might be hiring. You all should come together and build an independent news source. Do what you love the way you want to. I just don't think anybody would read it. I mean, look, just the fact that Blue Sky only has like 2 million monthly accounts that are on there compared to like 700 million on X, which is a lot more in the middle. I think that says it all. OnlyFans accepts all. Learn to code. If the Washington Post could have tried not to be Prava, maybe things would be different. Anyway, I'm having some delicious chicken tacos and washing them down with lots of liberal tears. Have a great day. Yikes. Learn to code. Bye. Womp womp. Where do you do activism now? McDonald's is hiring. Hey, look at that. ICE. ICE is hiring. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Technically they are, but they've already reached their maximum that they can bring on. I think it was 10,000 or maybe 15,000. I believe that they are going to hire a whole lot more in the coming months. But I believe that the last time I read, they were standing at like 220,000 applicants for ICE. So they've definitely got a lot of people who applied. Take your firing as a sign from God. Maybe marry a plumber and have 6 kids. A pathway to happiness is being offered to you. Take it. Yeah, I fully agree there. Put the fries in the bag. I was wondering when that one was going to come up. Put the fries in the bag. Yay, all you Satan WH word belong in hell. That was a little over the top. It was a little mean. You deserve this and worse. How many white male Republicans work at the Post? It's a rhetorical question. We all know the answer. Yeah. Try Taco Bell. No one cares. Yikes. Try this new. Okay. All right. It's starting to get a little too spicy down here. All right. Let's go back to the next one. PJ Joshi, after 4 years as weekend editor for National and Politics, I was laid off from the Washington Post. Every weekend was nonstop with assassination attempts, court actions, global military strikes, all harder to cover with 300 fewer talented journalists. Next steps, TK DMs open. And I forgot to mention some of these accounts, they block your ability to leave comments unless I believe they follow you or you follow each other. If you don't follow and they don't follow you, then you can't leave a comment. So some of these that have just the overflowing amount of support are probably those individuals who only allow people that they follow to comment. So forgot to mention that earlier. Your whole timeline is just retweets of TDS posts. No one will miss you. Now get on a treadmill. Oh, wow. Sorry to hear this, PJ. You're a great editor. I'm confident you will find another perch soon. And see, they're replying. They're also replying. So a lot of the outpouring, which, yeah, this might be one of those, one of those accounts where they only allow people who they follow to reply. So obviously one of the right-leaning folks found their way in here. Thinking of you and all your colleagues. My PJ, fellow editor here. Please remove Washington Post from your bio. It's misleading and inauthentic. That's crazy that people keep saying that. F you have no soul. I don't feel sorry for you, biatch. Wow, just think if the Post had required you and other people to be honest and fair in reporting. All those lying sack of S partisan propagandists would still have jobs, including you. Your employer knew the risks and considered you and the rest of its employees to be useful idiots. You guys took the bait and only confirmed the things that came from your own mental illness. Wonder how it feels to have been used like a dog. Ooh. I'm sure there's a WAPO article that can provide guidance in these troubling times. Best of luck. S-worker encompasses more than what we see on TV, and it saved me from poverty. It's often the net that catches people before they fall into destitution. And that was from the Washington Post. So yeah, maybe they should take have a taste of their own medicine that they're dishing out to everybody else. Why don't you get into S-work, sex work? That's what the Washington Post was talking about. Look, if you lose your job, just be a prostitute. You can get paid pretty well in that profession. I'm thankful you suck really badly. I hope the post returns to the quality paper it once was. Learn to prompt. What are your preferred pronouns, though? Cry more. Don't give a shit. Learn to plumb. 300 people. What a joke. Learn to code. Gee, what on earth are we going to do without PJ and her perspectives as a quote-unquote woman of color? This is a major loss for the nation. It's like the Kennedy assassination, 9/11, and the Challenger disaster all rolled up into one enormous national tragedy. Yay, all you Satan. Okay, we already saw that one from somebody else. Good riddance. All right, let's head on. Let's roll on. Let's keep on rolling. Emmanuel Felton. I think I already came across him earlier. I'm among the hundreds of people laid off by the Post. This comes 6 months after hearing in a national meeting that rates coverage drives subscriptions. Yeah, we already did that one. Jonathan Barron. I was laid off from the Post today from a dream job working in visual investigations. I'm sad for the affected colleagues and for the meaningful, impactful work we won't be able to complete together, but also I am stunned, angry even. January alone, I investigated 2 fatal shootings by federal agents in Minneapolis, and I feel compelled to keep going. If you want to collaborate, please DM or signal. Well, I'm sure he probably put quite a twist on both of those events. I can only imagine, coming from the Washington Post, I'm sure it was probably very heavily biased against ICE, to say the least. If and when you get in a new gig, discover a word that may keep you employed. Objective. You should have worked out a paper that valued the truth and not the party affiliation. Hopefully it's bankrupt soon. Winning. One less propaganda generator. Absolute madness. Good luck. Let's see. I'm a journalism. Never resist arrest when you have a loaded weapon. Pretty easy to understand. That is quite a fair point, I think. Investigated, then wrote a misleading headline. You suck. I have an idea. Why don't you try to consider the other side of your stories on the ICE agents? Post what you've learned. In order to fully understand a situation, you have to be willing to believe both sides. This is why the Washington Post was no longer a quality operation. Could not agree more there. Cool, but what Washington Post identified you as a useful idiot. When your stories no longer sustain their propaganda requirements, you were determined to be no longer useful. Good. Your bias was obviously biased. 2 months and 4 weeks of garden leave gives you time to finish your story. I don't understand how this makes you angry. It seems generous to me. And if you're as good as you think you are, finding employment should be a breeze. Well, that should be kind of reassuring. Sorry about the job lost. Been there more than once myself. Look at it as a blessing. Get the hell out of there and find a civil place to live. Yeah, I mean, I can also speak from experience. I've been laid off too. Please continue with those 2 investigations. The public deserves to know the truth. And let's see what else we got. If your story on Alex Preddy didn't include the fact that he was in a Signal chat assisted by state and city politicians, then you're not a real journalist. You're either a propagandist or a useful idiot. Well, that's the first time I've heard about that, but I'm not saying that's not true. I didn't actually catch that anywhere. They don't want people to know the truth anymore. $100 million losses annually. No one was buying the product. Maybe the work wasn't meaningful or impactful. Start a new project. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go on to the next one. I'm sure I've got quite a few left. Sarah Ellison. I'm much more accustomed to writing about media layoffs than experiencing them. But yesterday I was among the 300 journalists let go from the Washington Post. I've been so lucky for so long in this industry. And ex-Washington Post, Vanity Fair, Wall Street Journal, author of War at the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, so she worked for quite a few of those left-wing outlets. And she continues, I've watched it go through wrenching changes. The first media story I ever covered was the Chandler family sale of their stake in Tribune County to Sam Zell. I have no idea what she's talking about. At the time, I felt so bad for reporters at the Los Angeles Times, Chicago Tribune, and Baltimore Sun. And now the shoe is on the other foot. I have a little time to figure out my next move, but I'm so grateful for my readers, sources, and my talented colleagues. We'll meet again soon, and I'll probably have more to say. Until then, 30. So I assume that means that she's saved up a nest egg. I mean, given her age, I would assume that she had. Have you thought about pulling a handsome cab at Seabiscuit? Go to the Leering Center. Much love to a wonderful reporter in person. Hey, Sarah, your Twitter bio is misleading. Okay, yeah. I mean, like, people keep dropping that at him. Lear to code. Too many subscribers of the Washington Post canceled when their echo chamber was pierced. Money talks. It's not the USPS. I'm so happy for you. You deserve this. Oh, wow. Why the long face? Sudden unemployment couldn't have happened to a more deserving group of people. You become another podcast loser? Learn to code. Your sources? Honey, those sources got your ass fired. Wise up. Pampered pups think their sources will save their careers, baby. Time to pivot and compromise everything you ever once thought you believed in. You only have to eat your ego once. Your move, long or short ride. Yeah. Start a Substack and change the subscription fee to view your articles, or charge a subscription fee. Former journalist. I can't wait for the next round of layoffs. What? Chin up. You can just learn to code. And not a single thing was lost. Ouch. You journalists are insufferable. No one cares that you got laid off. Just start a Substack. I'm sure your dozens of loyal readers still want to hear what you have to say. Of course, he's got the virtue signaling badges. Brian Keefe, it seems to be an industry filled with individual opportunity like never before. Sometimes change is good. Mortgage Executive 2007. Best of luck in what comes next. Just learn to code. Aaron McIntyre, you don't hate journalists enough. You think you do, but you don't. Yeah, well, I'm sure there's some truth to that. I can't relate. I've had my job for 20 years. So to be fair, though, I don't gaslight and lie about 60% of the country on a daily basis. Could be why I've had my job for so long. Plus, I make my company money. Woo! Learning to code could be the move. Lear to code. Good riddance. Heartbreaking. Let's see. Just spitballing here, but you could learn to code. All right. So, yeah, I think we're just going to get a lot of the same. So maybe I'll just try to rapid fire through the rest of these. Because, yeah, it looks like that I think we've pretty much had enough of what the comments are going to look like. But anyway, so the next one is Chelsea Janes. I, like so many people I respect and love, was laid off today. What an incredible honor it has been to spend 12 years there. I'm so grateful for anyone who read and encouraged and lived seasons with us. I'm so sad the post-sports family won't be there to live it with you again. Once got booed at Turner Field. Okay. All right. Danielle Abril. Unfortunately, I'm among the hundreds of journalists cut from the Washington Post today. Grateful for my more than 4.5 years here and all the work I got to do. I'm currently exploring what may be next in my career. Reach out if you'd like to comment. And Tech at Work writer, Texas native. Neha Massith. Journalism is a privilege, and I've been an honor to write for the Washington Post for the past 6 years. With my team gone, my time at the Post is ending. Grateful for the space to report stories no longer possible in India. Hugely proud of the work and the people. And formerly the Washington Post, Columbia alum, ex-ND TV, and so on. One more. All right. Naomi Nix. After almost 4 years at the Washington Post, my role was eliminated along with a ton of other talented journos. It's a cliche to say this, but this job is a dream come true. Thanks for my fantastic reporter friends and amazing editors who made the work better and banter funny. Cover social media companies, including Meta for Washington Post. So she just wrote about social media. Okay. I mean, look, man, if you've got an obscure job like that, then, you know, this should come as no surprise that you got the axe. Ellie Silverman, it was a dream to report for the Washington Post. I'm heartbroken to be among those laid off today. This profile was one of my last bylines. I want to keep telling stories that matter. If you're hiring, ... Protest movements, extremism for the Washington Post. And it used to work for the Philly Inquirer. And Alika Johnson. Oh, wait. Hold on. By the way, he linked this. He was attacked on January 6th. Can he make sense of it for the kids he teaches? Yeah. Let's see. In 2021, I was hired by Washington Post to cover health disparities and explore the way racism and social inequality affects health. 4 months ago, I became the Generations reporter, exploring how health is experienced by different people across the life course. Today, I was laid off. Okay, so here's one of those. So they shut off the ability for others to reply. And probably because, given that she was one of the folks that constantly talking about racism and social inequality, I mean, that was a large reason why the Washington Post went downhill so swiftly. Now we know why you were laid off. You were a DEI hire. Racism and social inequity, a topic literally no one gives a shit about. Now you can learn to code. If you were looking for a reason why you were laid off, you just said it. Curious, did any of your reporting include health disparities in Appalachia, or was it just for your skin tone? Healthcare was so much better before all this social justice BS permeated the system. Yeah, in Obamacare. Sounds like it was a pointless job, so makes sense they got rid of it. Start a Substack. Okay. Time to explore the way racism affects layoffs. I can't figure out why they were losing $100 million a year. Let's not act like the Washington Post is a bipartisan or a bastion of critical thinking and truth. Democracy dies in darkness is very true. Washington Post does its absolute best to keep things in the dark. Yeah, that ain't no shit. Racism and inequality, therein lies the problem. Grow the F up. All these layoff posts are the best thing I've ever read from Washington Post writers. Ooh. So what you're saying is you made your living being a race hustler and now you can't. Baha, I don't care. I just read your piece about how discrimination causes inflammation in black people more than other races. Like, we do need that perspective. This is ridiculous. Sorry. Did you ever cover how Obamacare subsidies unfairly made the big insurance companies rich? Probably not. I mean, these all got hundreds of likes. So, I mean, like her post reached a lot. As a journalist, you grasp that your words were and are intended for a specific purpose. Persuade, educate, refute. What was the purpose of this specific tweet? Certainly, there was an objective. And TLDR, social inequality. Clown show. Zero loss here. All those fired by the Washington Post have an insufferable ability to self-analyze themselves and their role in their shitty journalism. I'm always sorry to see layoffs, but it isn't weird to get a topical assignment permanently. I can see investigative issues, but your entire ongoing job, the issue wanes in public interest. Maybe it likely did. It makes you expendable. Reporters should cover all issues. Update your bio. Okay. I don't think that I did look at their bio. I'm sure it probably says former at this point. I mean, it's been several days now. Yep. Now, I don't know. Then Washington Post. Health and Science, ProPublica, DC, JSK Stanford, Boston Globe, Sun Sentinel. So basically left-leaning, left-leaning, left-leaning. Heather Kelly. I was laid off from the Washington Post today. I know, real original sentence. My first plagiarism in 20 years of journalism. My job was stupid fun and I loved every minute of it. I'm sad for my talented colleagues, but sadder the world will not get to enjoy to their amazing work. I'm going to stare at a wall for the rest of the day, and by wall, I mean TikTok. But then I'll stand up and get back to what I love, writing about the ways real humans use tech for good and weird, and yes, to dissociate after a bad day. I mean, look, I find that hilarious that, like, someone who's writing about tech, like, you're just going to waste your time just endlessly scrolling through TikTok? Really? If you need editing or writing, okay, yeah. All right. Remember when you had to smack the TV to get the channel to come in clearly? Too bad it doesn't work on Democrats. What happens when you lie by omission and constantly utilize intellectual dishonesty? These entitled Washington Post douchebags garner zero sympathy. Regular Americans despise you and loathe your Prada. Look on the bright side. Now you can open a daycare in Minnesota. All right. Yeah, I think that's my cue to move on to the next one. All right. And Lori Razha. My job covering Florida for the Washington Post was eliminated in today's brutal and mass layoffs at the paper, along with hundreds of my amazing colleagues. For those who remain, Godspeed. For me, if you're looking for someone to cover news in the Sunshine State, reach out. So what? So did they have a reporter for all 50 states? Did they have a 50 representing all 50? Well, 51, I guess, if you include DC. I think that's a little crazy. Anyway, I need someone to trim my hedges in South Florida. Current landscapers are subpar. People have spoken. No more propaganda. Just goes to show you that it only takes a few bad apples to sway the public opinion. The low-life element that hates America was just eradicated by Trump via Bezos. Good luck finding a job as a radical liberal activist propagandist. Uh-huh. And, all right. So, yeah, I can only imagine what she was reporting on, you know, as far as being in Florida with DEI and freaking out when DeSantis removed Disney's ability to self-govern and no transgenders in women's sports and Florida becoming constitutional carry, and the list goes on and on. I'm sure she was very anti all of those things and pushing back pretty strongly. Okay. And Dino Grandoni. I was told today my Washington Post job is being eliminated. It's just a job, but it's one I was proud to do for 8+ years alongside the best in the business. I'm here for opportunities to tell stories about the natural world and how we impact it. So let me guess, he was one of those climate change writers. That's what it sounds like. Covers wildlife, biodiversity, and nature. Okay. I mean, look, it doesn't sound like a very essential position when you're at a place like the Washington Post. I mean, as as that individual said earlier, stick to the politics, I guess. Molly Hensley Clancy. Hi, everyone. It's been a bit, but you all should know I was laid off today, along with the entire Washington Post sports desk. I am utterly heartbroken. This was my dream job, and I gave it everything I had. I'm also very angry. Paul Shem. So I joined the ranks of the Washington Post laid off, including so much of the international staff. My Russia-Ukraine department has been gutted and some of the best people fired. What serious paper doesn't cover that conflict? Some personal news. Will Hobson. I'm among today's Washington Post layoffs. It was a dream 11-year run as an investigative reporter focused on sports, making billionaires tremble, or at least mildly annoying them and their lawyers. A few highlights from the ride. I don't know if I should go through all the highlights or not, but 2016, they broke out Peyton Manning sent PIs after an HGH accuser just days before the Super Bowl. I'll never forget the thrill of standing in the middle of that newsroom with all those amazing journalists and seeing this lead on site. A few months later, deep dive on exploitative finances of the Olympics. 2020, exposés on harassment in the Washington NFL front office launched a 3-year investigation that ended with the team under new ownership. Anyway, it looks like another link to the same thing. Most recently, exposed how late NFL owner Jim Irsay died under the care of a luxury recovery doctor, giving him pain pills and ketamine. Just 2 weeks ago, we broke that the FBI is investigating. All right, anyway. Let's roll on. Vanessa L. Larson. Like many, I've been laid off from the Washington Post after 6 years as a copy editor. Almost daily, I edited some of our most harrowing foreign news coverage, including hundreds of stories on wars in Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan, and elsewhere. I've also been proud to serve as the Post Guild secretary. And she reposted this from Ihsan Tharnoor. And democracy dies in darkness with an empty office in the background. An empty Washington Post. And that will do it for the layoffs. Now, I've got the most recent information from 5 hours ago. Wall Street Mav, the publisher of the Washington Post, just resigned. He likely realized that there is no future for the business and wanted to get out before the end. All of the staff hate him for the layoffs. Probably a miserable position to be in. Yes, and that's a whole nother thing. Could you imagine the mood that's going to be in the Washington Post for the foreseeable future? Having 30% of everyone in the building no longer there. It's probably going to be quiet and depressing, and nobody's really going to have any motivation to do anything and report, I don't know, the facts for a change. From William Lewis, 5:33 p.m. I'm assuming this was today. No subject, all after 2 years of transformation at the Washington Post. Now is the right time for me to step aside. I want to thank Jeff Bezos for his support and leadership throughout my tenure as CEO and publisher. The institution could not have a better owner. During my tenure, difficult decisions have been taken in order to ensure the sustainable future of the Post so it can, for many years ahead, publish high-quality, nonpartisan news to millions of customers each day. What an effing fucking joke, dude. Nonpartisan news, bullshit. I mean, maybe that's what you were maybe trying to strive toward. Very, very unsuccessfully, I might add. And from Politico, Washington Post publisher Will Lewis says he's stepping down days after big layoffs at the paper. And we'll have a look at this. Jeff D'Onofrio, I'm sure I'm butchering that, the chief financial officer, was named acting publisher and CEO, so he's already been replaced. Just bumped the guy beneath him, his right-hand man, up to the big seat. Washington Post publisher Will Lewis said Saturday he's stepping down 3 days after the troubled newspaper said it was laying off a third of its staff. Lewis sent an email to the Post staff saying its difficult decisions have been taken in order to ensure the sustainable future of the Post. Lewis and the newspaper's billionaire owner Jeff Bezos did not participate in a meeting with staff announcing the layoffs this week. The Post chief financial officer Jeff D'Onofrio was named acting publisher and CEO. He joined the newspaper only last June, so he's brand new. Maybe he might be one of those more conservative-leaning folks. That would be a very wise idea. The British-born Lewis... never mind. So this is the guy that just left. I hesitated because I saw British and was like, well, maybe he's not all that conservative then. But no, we're talking about the guy who left. Was a former top executive at the Wall Street Journal before taking over the Post in January of 2024. His tenure has been rocky from the start, marked by layoffs and a failed reorganization plan that led to the departure of former top editor Sally Busby. The Post also lost tens of thousands of subscribers following Bezos' order late in the presidential campaign, pulling back with, we get it, the whole Kamala Harris thing. While anticipated, this past week's layoffs were deeper than anticipated, resulting in the shutting down of the Post's renowned sports section. sharp cutbacks in foreign and metro coverage, and the laying off of its photographic staff. And then I've got one more after this from the Gateway Pundit. Breaking: Washington Post CEO abruptly resigns after massive layoffs. Though I don't know how much more information we're going to get out of it. It's probably going to be more of the same. Washington Post CEO Will Lewis abruptly resigned after a massive round of layoffs at the paper earlier this week. We get it. The jobs, lost a third of the jobs. After 2 years of transformation at the Washington Post, now is the right time for me to step aside. And I'm honored to become a part of charting that future and to take the lead in securing both the legacy and business of this fierce, storied American institution. Washington Post Communications says the Washington Post is announcing Jeff D'Onofrio as its acting publisher and CEO, effective immediately. And here over on the X platform. And let's take a look. From the Washington Post, Jeff D'Onofrio, acting Washington Post publisher and CEO. He succeeds William Lewis effective immediately. On February the 7th, 2026, the Washington Post is announcing Jeff D'Onofrio as its acting publisher and CEO. D'Onofrio is a strategic business leader and proven architect of the new media landscape. Joined the Post in June of 2025 as the chief financial officer, following leadership roles across global companies, including Raptive, Tumblr, Yahoo, and Google. He succeeds William Lewis, who has served as publisher and CEO for the past 2 years. The Post's resolute commitment to writing the first rough draft of history anchors and imprints its future, said D'Onofrio. I am honored to become part of charting that future and to take the lead in securing both the legacy and business of this fierce, storied American institution. The Post has an essential journalistic mission and an extraordinary opportunity. Each and every day, our readers gives us a roadmap to success. That data tells us what is valuable and where to focus, said Jeff Bezos, owner of the Washington Post. Jeff, along with Matt and Adam, are positioned to lead the Post into an exciting and thriving next chapter. D'Onofrio served as chief financial officer for Raptive, the largest digital ad management company, serving over 6,000 creators and publishers. He oversaw the finance, human resources, and data and analytics teams while negotiating key partnerships and acquisitions that helped power Raptive to impressive revenue and profit growth. Immediately prior to his role at Raptive, D'Onofrio was chief executive officer at Tumblr and held other key leadership positions there, including president, chief operating officer, and CFO. His expert fluency in both today's media business landscape also grew from his leadership and management roles at Google and Zagat, Yahoo, and Major League Baseball, MLB Advanced Media. All right, and that's going to be it for the video. Just about everything regarding the Washington Post covered and read. Maybe the Washington Post will get their shit together this time, now that they've fired what appears to be a lot of left-leaning progressives and activists masquerading as journalists. Just report the facts, concrete evidence, what tangibly exists in reality, and not a bunch of feelings, emotions, hopes, and dreams for a socialist America. America with conservatism gone extinct. Trump is not that bad. We want a safe and prosperous country. We want rock-solid borders, innovation and success, and not a welfare state. We want the best education in the world for our children, and not a bunch of Marxism indoctrination. And maybe this will be a sign to the legacy media that the direction they envision for America is pure hell and dystopic, and we truly need to make America great again and keep it great. So if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It'll mean a lot to me if you subscribe, and I will be dropping a new episode of The Swamp on Monday, as I do the show Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone in it, the politicians, the bureaucrats, and the agencies and everything else. Also, I post daily on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you like. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.